Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone, joined alongside my co-host once again, Evan Davis. And the biggest news of the offseason just happened. Michael Conforto signed with the LA Dodgers to be their new corner outfielder. Now, obviously, we joke, Juan Soto is a New York Met. Jeff Passan tweeted that the corner outfielder and superstar received a 15-year, $765 million deal. And obviously, there is so much more to talk about with Juan Soto, including other teams' offers, how he fits with his new New York team, and obviously more. Evan, what were your thoughts just getting the notification a couple minutes ago that Juan Soto is now a New York Met?
Well, first of all, I think it's super cool. Donovan Mitchell just posted on Instagram that he's FaceTiming Soto right now, and the two just took a picture like, "Hey, what's up?" So, you look at it for the New York Mets, a team that was arguably the hottest team in the second half of the season. The stats showed it. I think they were the best team statistically from a win-loss perspective from June 1st on. It was the reason why Carlos Mendoza, the manager for the Mets, was up for manager of the year. This Mets roster, it's very interesting because obviously you have Francisco Lindor, who's 31 years old, but he's still an MVP. We saw how he finished second place in MVP voting behind the inevitable Shohei Ohtani, who won unanimously. But nonetheless, you just I can't even fathom what it is because like no disrespect to Juan Soto, I don't think any baseball player is worth that money. And I just like 765 million. This is arguably going to be like one of the greatest baseball players of all time. But 15 years? Like, so that contract till he's 41. And look, he could be aging like Tom Brady in terms of performance, but that's just crazy to me. And then there's escalators, like there's incentives that can get this up to over 800 million. I don't care how good of a player you are. I just don't think, I think it's a massive overpay for Soto, but why not overpay for Soto compared to like overpaying for like a middle reliever bum or like someone else that you might not have as much faith in?
Yeah, I mean, Juan Soto, obviously the talent was there, and we'd seen the money go up from uh it was like, oh, it just reached 600 million. Oh, now we're reaching around 700 million for the deal. And
Hmm.
then I think it was like earlier, either yesterday or today, where it was like, yeah, he's gonna get like 750 million.
Yeah.
And it was like obviously he wasn't gonna get it for as short of a not as short of a term, but like only 10 years as like Otani did. But that's just because of their difference in age. And Juan Soto just turned 26 in this October. So a 15-year deal, and like we said, it's there's a player option after the fifth year. Um, so technically he could opt out of this after the first 5 years and go sign another mega deal somewhere else. Uh, and it's still feasible. Like there's still a way for this to happen. But Juan Soto is a New York Met, and thank the heavens above that he left the AL East. I'm fine with him not being a Blue Jay as long as he didn't sign with the goddamn Red Sox or the goddamn Yankees. I'm just so blessed, so uh relieved that I don't have to deal with this man in my division for the next at least for the next 5 years. I don't know if he'll, make it maybe he come back in 2029,
Yeah, I
2029, the
I don't
Soto
see why
redemption.
you would opt out of that. Like I know money's continuously going up, but you're going to be 31. Like, dude, just take the 51 a year and run with it. Like just take it and go. And like I get like Yoshinobu Yamamoto has a similar contract where I mean, obviously his was 12 years for 325, but he also has a player option after the sixth season. If he wants to, he could. I just don't know, but um it's just it's crazy. Like, and again, I know I'm speaking as a Dodgers fan whose team signed Shohei Ohtani for 10 years, 700 million, but he also went 50-50, is a Cy Young pitcher when healthy, and is arguably the greatest player of this, whatever generation, if you want to call it, like, however you want to say. He's the best player in baseball, and Juan Soto is definitely up there as well. But I mean, when you look at it, it's like I'm not trying to discredit Juan Soto because he's arguably the best. He's a top three hitter in baseball today, but he also only finished third in the MVP voting. Like Bobby Witt Jr. still statistically, according to voters, had a better overall season than him. it's a New York Mets team that, yes, Juan Soto's a great addition, but I don't look at them as like a Juan Soto away from beating the Dodgers, for instance, last year, if you want to look at it from an NLCS perspective. Their pitching staff still needs a ton of work. When you look at it, they already lost Severino. They're going to lose Manaea most likely just due to age. Um, and then Jose Quintana, he's a good ad, but like the Mets still don't really have that true ace of their rotation. And they still need that because you could score as many runs as possible. But if your pitchers are turkey tossing in May and it's not even Thanksgiving, you really have no chance.
Yeah, and there isn't a world where I think a $50 million average doesn't seem that bad when you look at it. Like there's there's players that are going to be getting more money than him, maybe even next year.
Hmm.
51 million average isn't that big. It's just the total number is what makes it seem like, oh my God, it's 765 million, but it's over 15 years. If he
Hmm.
even lets it go to 15 years, there could be a world where, 2028 or 2029, he has an insane breakout MVP year where he hits like 50 home runs or something. Not even it wouldn't even be an insane breakout year because he hit 41 this past year, but still, there could be a world where he could opt out and maybe even get a 10-year deal worth. You don't know how the dollar is going to be back in 5 years from now. There could be a world where he even opts out and gets something else. The big thing about this is that he's now giving a new life to that franchise. And what does this mean for Pete Alonso? That must mean his time's up probably in New York. I don't see a world where, they just give Juan Soto this huge deal and then say, oh yeah, we're also going to try and re-sign Pete Alonso to like a 5 year something, 5 year, let's say $150 million deal.
Yeah,
I don't see a world where they just keep spending. Does this also take them out of Corbin Burns? What does this mean for other teams? What do the Yankees do to try and, do they go after Pete Alonso and kind of do like an unofficial official trade where it's okay, well, you got Juan Soto, but we're gonna take your first baseman. And obviously it's not equal at all, but there's a lot of questions now about like other teams.
oh, absolutely. But I think when you look at it through a vacuum, it's just like again, yeah, you're right. Because Corbin Burns is obviously still out there. Max Fried is obviously still out there. And Steve Cohen, we know like money is never an issue with him. It's why, they were after Ohtani. They were after even Yamamoto. But they got beat out. They didn't think he was worth the extra 25 million or whatever it was. Or no, I'm sorry. They got beat by Yamamoto because the Dodgers matched Yamamoto's offer from the Mets. So we know that Steve Cohen has money and he's waiting to spend it. I, but again, like that's the thing is like with all of that, I wonder like do they still get a Corbin Burns? Because even like MLB insiders were projecting like that they were going to get both Soto and Burns, which, if you get Corbin Burns, then the rotation looks a little bit more formidable. But without it, it's just, I mean, like the team still has a lot of work to do. And now you wonder, now that they're in this really massive win now mode, is Brett Beatty on the trade block? And maybe because he's like a quadruple A player where it's like he's great in triple A but can't find it in the majors. Do you use him in a package to get another pitcher? You just they need starting pitching. And coming from a Dodgers fan, I know how much starting pitching matters.
Yeah, and the Mets were always going to be the highest bidder for Juan Soto. I didn't believe the report that the Blue Jays were going to, somehow
Oh,
give
really?
give the highest contract. Like that just seems so. You're not outbidding Steve Cohen, and we've already discussed this. You're not outbidding Steve Cohen. If he
Hmm.
wants someone, he will throw the entire farm. It just came down to, you know, the Yankees just who do you pick basically? Now, obviously, it was 16 for 760 with the Yankees and 15 for 765 with the Mets. And yeah, that extra year where you technically lose a bit of AAV, who cares? It's still an immense amount of money that he doesn't need to
Hmm.
work, or he wouldn't need to work, and his generations of kids wouldn't need to work for the next whatever, like 3 millennia. Like his
Yeah.
his bloodline, that is generational wealth to a T. That is when you say that contract is generational wealth, that is generational wealth. Quick little note. I noticed Shohei Ohtani's at the Lakers game today. You think he got the notification? Hey, buddy, your contract just got
I don't think
outmatched.
he cares because he's got some bling on his left. That doesn't mean that
I know.
he could care less. I mean, he makes probably close to $1 billion now over time when you count all the deals, whatever. But this is so. Do we talk about the bigger free agent signing with Michael Conforto, or do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
What does this
Like,
mean for the Dodgers? Is uh
well, what
is
we
Teoscar gone?
well, I think now we could get into the conversation of like now Santander and Teoscar become that much more enticing for teams. Now, people were saying, yeah, Juan Soto was setting the benchmark for like what Teo and Santander are going to get. I think that's just baloney. I think they were more just, I think teams were just curious to see what Soto's decision was because the teams that were interested on Soto are then just going to pivot to guys like Teoscar and Santander. I still think the Dodgers re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar hasn't really helped himself from a negotiation standpoint of basically saying that he loved his time in LA and that he wants to stay there for the foreseeable future. I think he's a phenomenal piece. We saw the impact he had in the playoffs. His defense is always suspect, but I'll take the 33 home runs and the 99 RBIs. But you look at a guy like Santander, and again, I keep saying this and I'm going to continue to say this. I don't get the obsession with the Red Sox in the media. Like, why does everybody think the Red Sox are going to be signing all these guys? They were supposedly in on Soto. They were in on Teoscar last year. They actually gave Teoscar a second year, and Teo declined to bet on himself. It worked out in the end, but again, like this is a Boston Red Sox team where I keep hearing new ownership's going to do something, and it's kind of like I got to see it to believe it. And it was the same thing with the Baltimore Orioles, and a week after they got a new owner, Corbin Burns is on the team. So, Teo probably, I mean, now the Yankees definitely need an outfielder. Um, you look at the Red Sox again, you look at the Orioles, obviously. Curious to see what they do with everything because they signed Tyler O'Neill and they have Colton Cowser as well. But I could see Teo getting like 25 mil. Like I could see him and Santander in the 20 to 25 million dollar range. But now that they're signed, I could see Teoscar and Santander being signed by the end of like this week, like this time next week.
Yeah, I feel like by like the winter meetings are going to help so much to, determine more of these like top free agents, and we'll probably see, like you said, by this time next week, we're probably going to see a landing spot for Santander and Teoscar. John Morosi, Canada's favorite MLB reporter, tweeting that, the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Dodgers, all the teams that were in on Soto are now looking to spend on, Santander and Teoscar.
hmm
Um, but how does this raise up their AAVs potentially where it's like uh does Teoscar get around like 25, maybe even up to 30 mil on the
It's
average?
just it's his age. Like I just don't know with his age if he's gonna get that type of AAV.
Yeah, it's a big question mark because it's really like, we you can see this sort of domino effect where okay, well, corner outfielding, there was really three guys that people wanted to, sign specifically this offseason with, Santander, the switch hitter, Teoscar, the mainly power hitter and guy who would drive in a lot of runs, and then obviously Soto, the superstar. And now you see it where it's like, okay, what do we do now as like kind of a backup option? Like,
hmm
because obviously these teams, I feel like that's why, and there's good reason for these guys to wait until Soto makes the deal. Um,
Well, because now
now
there's leverage.
now there's leverage and say, well, you need a corner outfielder. You just missed out on Soto.
hmm
Where's my 30 M's? Like, I need 30 M's. If you were gonna offer him 700 million, bro, offer me, like 150 for 5 years.
Yeah, I'm a third of Juan Soto's value.
Yeah. Bro, like,
I-
yeah, it's a big question to see how these teams react. And like I said, the Red Sox are one of those teams where they're always going to be in discussion somehow, even though they never make a move. But one of the things that's interesting about them is, like I said earlier, they were close to getting Teoscar last year. They offered him a 2-year, $24 million deal, and then the Dodgers offered him a 1-year deal worth that much. And so he said, okay, might as well just go to the Dodgers for a year.
Hmm.
Does Boston try and up the ante when it comes to the Dodgers? I don't think the Dodgers are probably going to spend the most money to try and re-sign Teoscar because I feel like uh
Oh,
they oh
well, this isn't like as breaking news, but it just came in that the Dodgers just agreed to terms with Blake Trinan on a 2-year, $22 million contract.
that's another domino down. I mean, I think we kind of expected him to
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring like the real breaking news. I know
yeah,
like the night's been kind of dry.
the Dodgers are making big money moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how does this affect, when it comes to because I think the Dodgers are gonna whatever the highest bid for Teoscar is, the Dodgers will match it, and I think Teoscar is gonna re-sign back there. I don't think there's a world where unless it's like an insane overpay, like the Red Sox pay like 40 million per year for Teoscar.
Yeah, like and I agree with that because it seems to be, and like again, sources are sources, but from all indications, and even like him, crying at the parade and like all the excitement and jubilation that he had, it feels like he wants to be a Dodger, and like he definitely embodies the culture when you look at it, just even from a fan perspective. And I think that's what really matters. And yes, again, like if the Red Sox throw out like 30, I don't think the Dodgers go past 30 million with Teoscar. Like with all due respect to Teoscar Hernandez, because obviously like we know what his talent is offensively, but again, like he just turned 32 years old. He has been very consistent. I mean, he was at least consistent this year in terms of health, but for a guy that made 23.5 million on what was a pretty fair contract given his production, I definitely think he earned a couple more million, but like if it gets to 30, I think the Dodgers just like chalk it up and just say, you know what? Like we tried.
Yeah. And you know what, when it comes to, you know, Michael Conforto's a big like, he's a big vet.
Yeah.
Um uh I mean, the Dodgers are gonna be like obviously there on most of the other free agents, and I think Teoscar is going to be their last big swing. So I think they might even delve into the realm of, overpaying to retain someone rather than
Mhm.
let someone leave. If it comes down to a couple extra M's, uh, just like I don't know, they can defer it. They can just keep deferring it, which is another insane thing about the Soto contract. No deferred money. Like
That just shows you about Juan Soto, but also just shows you that Steve Cohen is like, you know what? I'll just take all of it. Like I'll just wear this. But we haven't even entertained the question of how many rings do the Mets have to win?
well, the one for Otani. And that was kind of more of a double deal because you got like Otani and Yamamoto, and it was like, okay, if they don't win like three rings at least, then it's kind of like, uh,
A failure.
yeah. But at least they actually got the first year and first ring. Like getting it out the way is not that bad.
Mhm.
But yeah, what else do you do? Now you have to go against the Dodgers probably every year in the postseason. Like it's really a two-man race right now where and you can even throw in the Phillies. Like I think they'll be up there and you know uh the Padres keep always being consistently there.
Mhm.
It's gonna be, the postseason is gonna be such a fun time. And thank God that Soto didn't go to the Dodgers. Like I'm actually kind of
I didn't
happy that
want him on the
no, because like if he did and then they deferred all the money, like it
Dodgers.
actually would have ruined baseball. Like I'm not even joking. I think the league least amount of like views throughout the regular season it ever would have because if that just were to happen, that would be insanely bad for the sport. I'm glad he picked the Mets. I'm glad there's, parity and uh the Mets are a good team that, and they've been kind of the little brother for so long. Uh
Mhm.
they can't ever get past the Yankees, and they finally. poach someone from the Yankees in their prime, a young
Mhm.
superstar. Like it's huge for them and it's huge for baseball as a whole.
Yeah, and 75 million at signing. Like, I don't know. I've heard reports that my team buys their players, but have you met the New York Mets? Like, this is crazy. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Um, I mean, you look at it, like Lindor's 31, Soto's obviously 26. Isn't it crazy that this is his fourth team? Like, I don't think we talk about that enough. Like this is going to be Juan Soto's fourth team. And even like we haven't really talked much about the Yankees and how this impacts them. Like they gave up a lot to get Juan Soto. Like they gave up Michael King, who statistically over the last two seasons has been the best starting pitcher based off ERA and minimum innings, whatever, in order to qualify for that. And when you look at the Yankees rotation now, like they could use a Michael King to pair with Garrett Cole. And I mean, outside of that, like that was really like the main piece in that deal. But like now that you're looking at it in a vacuum, like yes, you made it to the World Series, but like, was it really worth mortgaging like some really talented players for one season of Juan Soto where you didn't even get to retain him? And I mean, Hal Steinbrenner did everything he could, but there's no way his dad, God rest his soul, but there's no way George Steinbrenner isn't just twisting and turning in his grave, like saying, "What the fuck is my son doing?" Because I mean, like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if George Steinbrenner was running this team, like Juan Soto it would have been like a sign and trade where George would have just been like, here's the money, this is what we're offering you. So that way it doesn't get to this point where you even allowed other teams to have a bid. And like, if you are going to trade a really solid piece in Michael King, when everyone knew how talented he was, like, if anything, now the San Diego Padres just won that trade when I always thought it was the Yankees that won that deal, but now it's the San Diego Padres because everyone knew that Soto was going to test free agency. He earned that right, but just like the fact that you know, didn't even get really much out of him outside of a World Series appearance when you got gentlemen swept, like, I don't know. The Yankees, like, they're gonna have to figure it out because that's a huge piece of their lineup that will never be back.
Yeah, and you know what? It really came down to, first of all, I want to say the biggest clown on the earth is that Red Sox reporter that was saying like it's just Soto to Boston is a done deal. They're just, hammering out the rest of the
Oh God. I
details.
mean,
Uh,
everyone's just like horny to make that move.
Soto wanted to, continue the Dominican legacy in Boston. Bro, get
Hmm.
out of here. Get packed up out of here, buddy. I bet Boston didn't even go over 700 million.
Yeah.
I'm that confident that their cheap organization wasn't even thinking of doing that. Um, I wish I wish there was a way for like, let's ask the agent and say, okay, who like give us a tier list, who gave us the highest offers. Well, obviously we get the Yankees because that was like, the closest team probably to keeping Juan Soto. But yeah, and just another note, the Yankees traded Drew Thorpe in that deal to the Padres, who the
Who
Padres
then
then
used for
like
Cease.
for Dylan Cease. And you know who would be really helpful in in the Yankees rotation right now? Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just like it's such a, you know, thank God he left the Yankees because I just didn't want to see him in the AL East anymore. I was tired of seeing him.
Hmm.
It was just 1 year. Like I can't believe it. Imagine NL East fans. You just lost Juan Soto for like 2.5 years, and now you're a Nationals fan. You have to go against Juan Soto for the next 15 years, potentially. Could be five, could
Hmm.
be 15. Um, but yeah, what a crazy deal.
Yeah, I know. Blake Trinan for 2 years, $22 million contract. I mean, that one. I mean, actually, I didn't think he would be back. I know, like, I'm kind of all over the place, but that's because, like, it just happened now. I didn't think he'd be back. Um, but I mean, I'll absolutely 11 million, considering our oldest Chapman bum got 250K less than that. Like, I'll take Trinan in that nasty slider. But yeah, that's the big contract, eh? But like when you look at this, like again, like Drew Thorpe, Dylan Cease, like the Yankees, like they really got to figure this out. And they're doing a disservice to Aaron Judge. And that's what really sucks about it is like Aaron Judge just won a unanimous MVP and you couldn't even keep his right or left hand swinging man. Like that's just what I don't understand. Like it's the New York Yankees. Like this is the mecca of baseball, and it's just it kind of sucks for them.
It is, there is a bad thought, or not a bad thought, but it's just like it is bad that like they lose Juan Soto, obviously. Like that's the worst possible outcome for them. But
Hmm.
now it's like, what else do you do? What like and it also goes in for like the other teams, like we talked about, like they're going after Santander and Teoscar now.
Hmm.
Now the Blue Jays have to outbid, or the Red Sox have to outbid, or the Dodgers have to outbid the Yankees, who are going to be pissed, trying to be like, God damn it, now we have to spend a lot more money on a guy we probably weren't thinking of. We wanted to keep Juan Soto, like we paid him 760 million. Like we were
Yeah.
offering him that, and he went to the Mets. But now you got to go in that kind of now it's kind of an auction or a bidding war for these, secondary pieces. And what does this mean for the Yankees? Like Juan Soto was huge for them in the postseason. He carried them throughout the postseason. When Aaron Judge stinks it up, Juan Soto was the one that was cleaning up a lot of the bad things that were happening. Uh,
Yeah.
what does this mean now? Like it's a big question.
I, I don't know. I mean, trying to even think like I can't even because now that even the Dodgers signed Michael Conforto, like that could have even been a potential piece for the Yankees, and I can't imagine Teoscar in the with the Yankees. That just seems weird. I could totally see them going after Santander. Just like throw the kitchen sink at him, honestly, because that's another switch hitting bat who obviously hit 40 home runs last year, could really benefit from the short porch. Um, I just think that's your option. And go get a Corbin Burns. Like, just say F it. Go get, like, I love Luis Heel. I love Clark Schmidt, but they were not good in the playoffs. Like, they were unplayable in the postseason. And I know we say you play the team that lies in front of you, but they had a very favorable schedule
Hmm.
going into the World Series. And then the Dodgers exposed them. Then again, like, it was a great offense, but like that's the that's the best way to test if your guy is legit or not. And Luis Hill and Clark Schmidt, neither of them could even go past 4 innings. So I just think, Garrett Cole's obviously phenomenal, but he's not getting any younger. And now that the Mets have kind of like stolen the identity of the Yankees, as we've continued to allude to, like, do you now go after a Max Fried who reportedly had conversations with the Yankees like via Zoom or whatever? Or do you go after a Corbin Burns? But you gotta get someone. Like this is the Yankees, and now you're still in a very competitive division, especially with the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll see if the Red Sox actually put money where their mouth is. But nonetheless, like you're always competing for a wild card with due respect because the one seed is like it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. And, just looking at the remaining free agents, it's really like like Randall Grichuk, Mike Tauchman, Jason Hayward, Max Kepler.
Yeah.
Other than obviously the two we were talking about, it's like left field. You got Profar, Mark Canha,
Hmm.
Alex Verdugo. Did the Yankees try and pivot and just be like, all right, screw it, we'll bring back Verdugo, Tommy Pham? Like there isn't many people that are really, out there that you're like, oh yeah, we need a we'll go sign them. There isn't many that high war players, and obviously
Hmm.
the top three are going to be Santander, Teoscar, and Jerks and Profar.
Hmm.
That's a weird market where they're all mid-30s guys. The youngest one
Yeah.
being Santander, who's just 30, and it's like you can't really give them a huge deal, and you're not really getting. Do you just say screw it and we'll just develop someone else? Like it's a huge question for for a lot of these guys.
It is, and my buddy who's a Yankees fan just he just texted me. I'm sorry. I know I keep interrupting, but I feel like this is kind of like just a raw uh it's sorry. He just is saying how he's like now we have Jazz and and Verdugo to carry our season the rest of the way. But
Yeah, it's
I know, I'm sorry. I'm being rude, but you just you look at this and you're kind of just like again, like the market isn't that great. They're probably gonna have to trade for someone respectfully. I like I love Jason Dominguez and I think he could be great, but the way that they're utilizing him is not to his best ability, and he's been a prospect for so long. Like I am thinking on the fly here in terms of like moves and stuff, but with the Yankees and how, you know, kind of subpar to say the least their farm system is, like, oh, I know what they can do. Forget Jason Dominguez. Call the Cubs and get Cody Bellinger. That's what they
Mm,
need to do. How would we not? I completely forgot about that. The Cubs have been trying. I don't think the Cubs thought that Cody Bellinger was going to opt into his contract because, like, 20 minutes after he opted out, a report came out saying that the Cubs are looking to trade him. I think they were kind of like, oh shit, like, we didn't think he was going to stay here. But like, if I'm the Yankees, I call the Cubs and ask about Cody Bellinger. Um, if I'm the Milwaukee Brewers, I even go as far to ask about Christian Yelich and his availability because I think that could be another cheap option where like the Brewers are trying to get rid of Yelich's contract and like we know the Yankees obviously have money. That could definitely be a possibility. Apparently, the Phillies are also trying to shop Castellanos. He would fit into the swing and miss and also hit tanks mentality of the Yankees. Like, there are options out there for them that it doesn't have to be via free agency, but like, they need to be the most aggressive team now in free agency. Like, there's no excuse.
yeah. What and in it's just can't believe
I
it.
know, man. I
And
know you
and
can't believe Blake Trinan to the
but
Dodgers again.
one thing that's really funny is the Mets gave Carlos Correa 325 per year or 325 million total.
Hmm.
How bad would that look right now if if Correa didn't fail his physical like 40 times, first going to the Mets, then or but did he go to the Giants first and then the Mets, or I think it was Mets then Giants then back to the Twins, right?
Mets,
Imagine
Giants, yeah, back to Twins.
imagine he imagine the Mets actually signed Carlos Correa for that much money, and now it's like
Bro.
they basically screwed themselves out of getting Juan Soto. Like the domino effect, the butterfly effect of that is so crazy to see. If Carlos Correa doesn't fail that physical, Juan Soto is probably a New York Yankee again.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
It's just like that part's crazy. I think we also just need to point out like would Blake try and never pass up a meeting with Donald Trump, especially after this World Series win? Like he would have come back for a dollar. But anyways, back to a regularly scheduled program. I'm done now.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, and even when that Correa contract happened, I was just like, what the hell is Steve Cohen doing? Like they had talks about Correa playing third base, and I'm just like, like what are we doing here? What would be really funny is if Juan Soto failed his physical and then like went back to the Yankees and then the Mets just get swindled twice within like
yeah,
within like 3 years of each other. That's what would be crazy to me. But nonetheless, the New York Mets, like, dude, the NL East might be the best division in baseball. Like the National League is insane. Just in terms of talent, because we were saying how the NL West was a gauntlet, especially with the Dodgers and the Padres battling out, and then to a certain extent the oh my God, to a certain extent the Arizona Diamondbacks. But you look at the NL East, you got the Braves that are going to be fully healthy again. We know what the Phillies are capable of doing. Obviously, it was a very disappointing postseason. And now you have the team that knocked out the Phillies in the playoffs in the New York Mets, who are obviously going to be a new team, but like, bro, that is going to be an insane division to watch for the next now 15 years.
yeah. It's whew, like
I
the
can't wrap my head around. Oh, Soto's brother just posted. They did a champagne shower at the hotel.
nice. Um, yeah, I just can't believe like you know the Phillies, Braves, Mets. The Nationals are an up and coming team, and we talked about it at the beginning
God,
of the
the
year.
Nationals. Yeah.
Yeah, like that is a really fun division. How is it the best division in baseball?
Hmm.
There's certainly a conversation where it's like, yeah, you just got, the Braves are going to be healthier next year. The Phillies are obviously still going to be around one of the top teams in the league. But what do you do when it comes to like, the Dodgers, the NL West, where it's like the Dodgers, Padres, and the Giants, made a move for Willie Adames. That's another move we didn't even talk about.
Oh God, yeah. I guess like why don't we just? It's gonna be a little bit of a long episode, but why don't we just get into it? Like even like quickly with Willie Adames, like I completely forgot. Like 7 years, 182, which is the exact same contract Chris Bryant got when he left the Giants and went to the Rockies. But honestly, that's worked out for the best for the Giants. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're talking now about just a loaded division. Like every team outside of the Rockies like has a superstar level player.
Yeah. And it's something funny to see where it's like, Buster Posey, and obviously now the new president or general manager or whatever, making moves to the Giants because Farhan Zaidi was just did such a terrible job and wasn't able to finalize like a deal to get something done for another, star to come to San Francisco.
Hmm.
And now, name in the book, but I think that's a really decent deal in terms of, a contract for Willy Adames. I think that was kind of in the range and he's kind of
Hmm.
worth that amount. I think that was a good deal for the Giants. And I sent a post to the group chat we're in where it's like, oh, they might move Matt Chapman to short while if the Giants were to sign Ha-Seong Kim. That sounds so stupid, first of
Hmm.
all. But now Willy
Gee,
Adames doesn't have
that
to.
did sound stupid. I was like, what
Yeah.
are we doing?
Now Willie Thomas doesn't have to, they were thinking if he were to come to the Jays, he'd have to play third for a year until Bo left. Um, but now he just gets to play short, and that's what he probably wanted from the start. He wanted a team that would let him play short. And at
Hmm.
least as it seems right now, he's the starting shortstop for the San Francisco Giants and for the foreseeable future. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's really what he wanted, and that's what he's getting.
Yeah, and I don't know why. Like I just didn't think he would go. I didn't think he would go to the Giants. I because they like all the talks were like, oh yeah, like Ha-Seong Kim is gonna go to the Giants, and I was like, okay, like that makes sense. Like, a 1 year flyer type of deal where, we'll see, you see what happens. Maybe it works out in the end, but like this one just kind of shocked me in the sense of like I didn't think the Giants would be that aggressive given the fact that they were like they're not a good team. Like yeah, I mean, obviously they just lost Blake Snell. They just lost Michael Conforto. But yeah, it's a great contract overall for Adames, and even the Marlins and the Nationals can make the NL East even, a little bit exciting. But you look at it, this is from Just Baseball, so source them. But this is about Juan Soto, by the way. I know we're going back and forth. But since 1955, the highest on base percentage in MLB history, minimum 4,000 plate appearances. Number one is Barry Bonds this was at 444 for Barry Bonds. Juan Soto's second at 421. Like we're talking, and he's only
26.
26. Sorry,
Just turned
thought I
just turned
lost you for a
26.
second. I keep my computer's glitching. I thought I lost you. My bad, bro. My bad. But yeah, he just turned 26. Like, happy birthday to you. Jeez Louise.
But yeah, what a deal. Blake Trine in 2 years.
Yeah.
Michael Conforto.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a great, great situation for the Mets now. You
Hmm.
stole somebody from the Yankees. Like that was kind of their dream situation, trying
Yeah.
to steal someone from the Mets or to steal someone from the Yankees. Um, you know, the Red Sox now join, the list of, Arson Judge and Shohei Ohtani on the route to Toronto. They
Yeah.
get their own little guy that
Hmm.
gave their fans false hope. Thank God it didn't happen again with Toronto. Oh my God, if it went a second year where it's
Oh
like
my
Juan
God.
Soto is really considering the Jays, I would have like actually jumped off a cliff.
You would have
Um,
lost today.
Man. But I think that'll just about do it for this
Yeah.
episode of Breaking News Bears. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis. I once again want to thank you guys, the listeners. Obviously, this is the big fish of the offseason, but there's still so much more to talk about for the rest of the year. Obviously, we talked about other free agents, and those are going to come out a lot more quicker now that the big fish is finally caught.
Hmm.
Thank you guys once again for listening to another episode of Breaking News Bears.